on. All right, everybody, earthlings, people, the spiritual experience is back, and I'm here with my good friend Maria. What's up, girl? How are you?
Hi, Jared. Good morning.
Good. We were just talking right before we started recording, and this is it's perfect, perfect kind of segue. Where we were thinking, and you were explaining how, you were mentoring somebody that maybe that had mental illness, and throughout their life, like even though the outside was all the way put together, they had the whole outfit on, and they were progressing. You know, when they would have these episodes or whatever, which were out of their control, like the level of like apathy of the seriousness was like baffling to you.
Yes.
Like explain a little bit more about what you were finding out. Like.
So what I found out, I was mentoring a young girl who was an artist. She was a singer. She wrote poetry. She drew. She was an artist in every sense of the word. She struggled with mental illness, and I was mentoring her. I was trying to get her, out of that dark cloud.
How did you guys find each other? Like, how did that happen?
Through a third party,
Right.
felt that I might be a good fit for her. It was no coincidences. I do believe that life has no coincidences, and people are placed in our lives for a reason.
Right.
So an outsider actually approached me and asked me if I'd be willing to do some coaching for her.
Sure. Just move a little bit closer to the mic.
And so, I interviewed with her via Zoom.
What was that like?
It was amazing. There was about, I think, 4 or 5 other potential mentors.
No way. It was like
her.
a tryout.
It was a tryout.
So for you, with your history, you've been in recovery a long time, 10 years, right?
Almost 10 and a half years,
right.
yeah.
So you have all this self-awareness. And so was this to you okay, I'm going to try out to show this person that I'm a little bit off too, and it's okay.
Yes,
and
yes.
What?
Absolutely. I actually told her she was in a facility at the time of the interview.
Right.
And I was the first one to interview with her.
No way.
And I told her, listen, it's okay. I'm not, by any means, I'll never use the word normal.
Right.
I struggle. I have my own, issues, if you want to call it that. Life isn't perfect. It's what we make of it.
Right.
It's what we make of the bad situations and how to overcome and persevere through that.
Now, how did it feel to you that you could, did you ever think this was something in your life that you could offer somebody legitimately? Not in our previous life or whatever, we're out there, we're using with this or with that. And even if we're just in a different mode, everything is transactional. Mm-hmm. Where here, this is look, I'm here interviewing to let you know that everything is okay.
Exactly. I never, obviously inside the program.
Right.
I was taught very early on, from day one, you help others, you help others, you help others. Now, even when I was out there drinking and using, I was tornado. I was
Right.
a mess. I was a disaster.
Sure.
But I always worked in nonprofit agencies, handicapped adults, mentally disabled adults,
Right.
some children.
So
I
even
always,
with your affliction.
even with my own afflictions,
Right.
I knew that helping people was something that I had a passion for.
That's so bizarre.
What's even more bizarre, though, Jared, is that I had no plans on doing any of this coaching, mentoring, anything like that. It
Right.
was a random call. And again, there was about, if I remember correctly, 4 or 5 others that were Zooming it with her.
So you
And
guys are going one at a time? Or
One
how
at
did
a
it work?
time. I was the first one up.
Right.
And I believe what might have caused her to choose me was because I was real with her.
Right.
And I told her, no matter what, you're always going to be safe with me.
Oh, man.
Because she always felt fear and, anxiety and the depression and the in her head. And, those weren't my words. I believe that.
Right.
I believe that was divine intervention because I knew nothing about her.
Right.
I had a brief, like a quick little rundown of what she was going through.
Right.
And those words came out of my mouth, and I could see her on Zoom, and there was a relief when I said the word safe. 10 minutes later, I get an email on a group email saying, everyone, please stop the interviews. She has chosen Maria to work with.
Oh, my God.
And that was where our journey started.
What did that feel like for you?
It was amazing. I was just so...
Were you like, now what? Like, fucking...
yeah, it was kind of like, oh, shit. Like, oh, now what am I going to do? She lived in North Jersey.
Wow.
I live in Brooklyn.
Right,
so
right.
it was, 3, 4, 5 times a week sometimes of me traveling and still working at my job. I'm in the car business
Right.
with my family. And if we weren't physically together, we were literally texting, FaceTiming, Zooming it up like every single day. From
Wow.
the second she woke up till the time she went to sleep. And she felt so comfortable with me that she was able to share her innermost fears with me.
Wow.
Her innermost anxiety, the discomfort, the pain that she was going through. Unfortunately, with the mental illness, that's a big stigma.
Sure.
A lot of people suffer in silence because of that.
Right, but you also think that, like, some of these, this is where, like, I have people who are close to me who have been clinically diagnosed with some kind of mental affliction, right? And then I think to myself, like, how can I, like, empower this person, right? Like, I know that there's medicine and there's stuff that's doing what it's supposed to do, right?
Yes.
Excuse me. But how can I say, okay, listen, that part of your life is out of our control, but what I can affect is, like, okay, how are we living? Like, are we trying to exercise or whatever, or try and eat right, if that's the thing, or are we trying, like, all of the situational things that I've found in recovery is that, like, everything is temporary.
Exactly.
But when we have that mind, when we come in, and we come in to the rooms with, like, this is my life, and I will never be different, and this will never be different. And then when you grow painfully out of that mindset, to be able to share with somebody else that, listen, I am no miracle. Like, you can live like this too, to whatever degree that is. Like, how did that feel for you, knowing that you knew that it could work? You knew that, like, it could work.
You hit it right on the head. What I did was I shared my experiences.
Right.
And even though what I struggled with mentally wasn't what she was struggling with mentally.
Sure.
It was different, but it was always the same. It was always that identification with each other, and through mentoring her and showing her that when we had first met, she didn't want to work on her music. She didn't want to work on her art. She didn't want to draw. She didn't want to write her poetry. She wouldn't write in her journal. She was literally bottling everything up.
Right.
And I would talk to her and say, maybe, just maybe, in a gentle, loving way, I would say to her, if you get back into music, find the things you love again, rediscover yourself again. Try to get out of your head by putting it into your music and what you're good at.
Right.
So basically, I pulled all of her attributes, which she had many.
They're like tools for, like, expression.
All the tools
Yeah.
for expressing herself.
Yeah.
And probably a day or two later, before I had left her that day, it was a Sunday perhaps, and I said, think of something that inspires you. Think of something that will ease the pain.
Right.
And a day and a half.
Something constructive.
Constructive,
Yeah,
always
yeah.
constructive
It's
with
so
her. I did a
hard.
lot of constructive work with her.
Yeah, yeah.
And before I knew it, I got a text message from her, and it said, I pulled out my art book last night and I drew something.
Oh, my God.
and she sent me a picture of me.
No way, dude.
She did a sketch
Oh,
of me.
come on. This is like, I would be like, is this really happening? Is there like a camera? Is this like bullshit?
Is this like...
Yeah.
Yeah, like...
But you're like really touching somebody on the inside.
Yes.
With like love.
I loved her as if she was my own.
Right.
And that's why, unfortunately...
She was a young kid, right?
She was 20.
Yeah.
She was 20 when she passed away. And it was hard. It was really hard. That was a really big thing for me, too, to deal with. That was my biggest loss thus far in sobriety.
Right.
But before I get into her passing, those text messages kept coming.
Wow.
And it was, first it was drawings, then it was her playing her guitar, and then it was her singing, and then it was her asking me to video her doing her songs and original, things that she had written and never really got to, let's say, practice on because of the struggles she was having.
Where did you see like portions of yourself in her where like, how did you how did you do the same thing for yourself, like in recovery? Like, how did that happen for you? When I met you, you were somebody else.
I was a totally different person, yes.
You were somebody else. You looked different. I mean, when I met you, you take sobriety very seriously.
Yes.
Incredibly funny and silly, but like take the program seriously. And like when I see, somebody like me who's been around for a while, so when I see somebody doing that, I know that something's going to happen, but it's hard to, because again, like, even though when we have our community, like we were talking about, like I love you like my own sister,
of course.
Even though we only know each other like peripherally, but those hours that we spend together in those rooms, being vulnerable with each other and saying, okay, like, dude, like, all right, I didn't do this to myself today, but I ate 17 fucking donuts today and I feel like shit. I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to drug, and I'm not going to do like the super harmful things, but I'm still harming myself in another way. And then
we're just practically acting out.
Right,
I mean, pretty
exactly.
much in other outlets.
Exactly. So when you see her with all of those same barriers, like, okay, well, I'm not going to do any of the things constructively that could maybe ease that pain. I can easily go for something else, whether it's pills or somebody cutting themselves or whatever, that just gives you that temporary relief instead of like the long-term recovery, which you get from taking those like begrudging like actions. Like where did that happen for you?
So when I came in, my sobriety date is June 30th, 2011.
Nice.
And, but for the grace of God, I have not had any desire or temptations to test the waters.
Right.
I
as far as drugs and alcohol.
Drugs and alcohol,
right.
I can act out in other ways.
Sure.
People can't see me right now, but you can. When I came into the rooms, by my first year, I was pushing like 300 pounds.
Yeah.
They told me save my ass, and I did. So I ate
Right.
everything, and I acted out probably with food, and
Sure.
didn't really care about exercising at that point. My first year of sobriety, my main goal was to stay sober and
That's
really absorb the program.
Right.
And help others and do service. And you know,
Yeah.
we're in the same group.
Yeah.
Secretary, greeter, chairing, coffee
Whatever.
maker, whatever it took.
Yeah.
Whatever it took, because I did not want that alternative ever. And now,
Suffering.
almost 10 and a half years later,
Right.
I still remember the suffering.
Right.
I still remember when I was a beginner and how difficult it was, coming in. And my bottom was awful.
Right.
I mean, I was being threatened by a drug dealer with his hands around my neck to kill me
Yeah.
because I owed him money. And I just looked at him blank, and I said, do it. I think I scared him that night because he went back and he was like, whoa, like what the fuck is up with you? Like,
Yeah.
he really looked at me like, are you crazy?
And you found yourself like in that place mentally where you're just like, it doesn't matter.
It didn't matter because I
Right.
was so spiritually dead.
You're broken.
I
yeah.
was so broken, but I didn't have the nerve to kill myself.
Right.
But my best thinking was, oh, wait, if someone kills me, that'll be easier on my family and friends than me taking my own life.
Even not knowing what it's like being on the outside, them watching you spiral down the fucking drain.
Yes.
Right? I'm like,
Yes.
I used to say the same thing, like, yo, nobody could see me. So it's like, whatever. Kind of like if I had a haircut and I brushed just the front of my teeth and my shoes were clean, like everything else would fall into place. Meanwhile, I'm like drinking and drugging myself and suffering. And like, eventually, like, I started to feel other people's pity, but I was blind to that. And then you had like this moment in a car with a guy like trying to kill you. And you're like, yo, fuck it, bro.
Yeah, I said, just do it.
Wow.
Take me out of my misery and do it.
Wow.
So he took my car keys and just like chucked them somewhere.
Nice.
And it was, I'll never forget this. It was June 28th of 2011, and it was a hot night, and it started raining. So here I am on my hands and knees crawling to look for my car keys, because at that point, you needed a key to start the ignition, right? It wasn't one of those push things.
Yeah.
And
It sounds very dramatic, but it's like sad when
it
it's
was
you.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, yeah.
really sad, and I was scared, and it started pouring on me, and here I am, this lost, broken soul, not knowing what to do or how to get out of what I was feeling.
Right.
And I found my keys, and I was on my knees, and I looked up at the sky, and I said, God, I can't do this anymore. Like, I need help.
Now, did you believe in God at all, or
I
just
mean,
kind of
the
like
foxhole bullshit
Yeah,
prayer
yeah.
is like, oh, if you get me out of this, I'll never do that again. Or
I do that now with a parking spot. God, if you find me a
Yeah,
parking
yeah.
spot. but like in those moments, it's like
in that moment, I had a true spiritual awakening.
Yeah, yeah.
I did.
where you're so desperate, you're like, dude, I don't even know who's there, but somebody help me.
Somebody has to be listening to
Right.
me, and I knew to look up at that sky.
That's
I mean,
so
I grew
great.
up Catholic. I went
Right.
to Catholic school, but that God that the nuns taught me about was
yeah.
going to punish me.
Oh yeah, you're
And I
already
was
on the
I'm
way
already
to
in hell.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
in
you're
hell.
already
Like,
there.
that's it. But because of AA and the program and doing the steps and having a sponsor and actually incorporating this into my life. Because
Right.
listen, I could talk the talk in AA.
Right.
Anybody can, right?
Oh, my God.
But what do I do when I walk out of that room after that hour?
Right.
If I'm not bringing what I learn and my tools and the way I have acceptance now, I have self-love for myself, I've changed physically, I've gotten into fitness, I've gotten into not just fitting this pizza in my mouth, you
Yeah.
know, like true fitness and taking care of my health. I went from a size like 26 to like a 3'5" now.
So how did you? So when you were just like for me, like as my process. I mean, listen, this is evolution. We're gonna be somebody
course.
different. If we're doing this, if we're living life on this earth the right way, like I am going to be, even if it's a centimeter different, 6 months from now. So I'm on a constant program of self-improvement. So like for me, I was like bottoming out on things without drinking and drugs. Like, so like, when did you say to yourself, okay, I'm not drinking, I'm not drugging, and I'm doing the work to get the tools to put my life together, but now I have to actually start putting my life together, like physically.
Yes.
Like, how did you have that conversation with yourself, or was somebody helping you, or like, what was the deal?
So I remember it was 2012. When I celebrated my 1-year anniversary,
Right.
June of 2012, something clicked. Something clicked, and I had been working in another nonprofit agency, but like in a different capacity.
Sure.
And I met a guy who was a trainer. He was a coworker, but he was also like a personal trainer.
Was he like
on
buff
the
and
side.
shit, or was he just like
Nah,
in shape?
not really. He was okay. Like he
Yeah.
he took care of himself, you know. And
Sometimes those guys, like, I don't believe them. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, you can lift weights, but if you can't run half a mile, like, you're not really.
no,
in
he
shape.
he was all right. Like he took care of himself, and I could see him training other people,
Oh, okay.
which was cool. And we became friends. and he introduced me to fitness.
Right.
And
Was this something you were thinking about, or did you know, like, dude, one of these days I'm gonna have to deal with this shit?
it was one of the, it was something like in the back of my brain.
Right.
Like, I cannot stay like this like, for the rest of my life. Like,
I mean, good
it's
for
not
you
happening.
that in the
and it had nothing to do with vanity.
Right.
It was like, wait a minute, I put down the drink and the drugs,
Right.
yet I'm going to kill myself, God forbid, with food.
Right. But at least you had the
know.
patience to be like, look, I can't tackle everything at one shot.
No, I knew better.
Because that's like so overwhelming.
No, my sponsor says, like, easy does it. Even to this day, like, be gentle, and a day at a time, everything will fall into place.
You'll get to it.
And someone in AA actually did say to me, and it might have even been my sponsor, like, the first year, save your ass, second year, lose it.
Yeah.
So
fun.
that's it. That's what I literally did.
Right.
And I started exercising.
How was it in the beginning?
It was hard.
Sure.
It was really, really hard. I was doing cardio. I was doing some, treadmill, Stairmaster. But with all the weight that I was carrying, that was a struggle in itself.
Sure.
I was like, oh my God, like, I can't. But I didn't give up.
How did you, like, what was that inside of you? Because it's very easy. It's so easy, like, even now when I exercise, or even when I'm doing anything in my life, like, I'll use the baseball analogy. Like, the first inning is the hardest, and the ninth inning is the hardest. Like, I'm never good. I'm good at saying, like, yeah, maybe one day, or this can't be me, or blah blah blah, because I have my own mental view of myself, which is, never, like, it's two things: either I'm the greatest or I'm fucking zero.
Yes.
Right. So, like, but once I know that if I get over that first hurdle, and I start to feel a little bit better, like now with all this recovery time that we have, like, we know that that's the process. But in the beginning, you didn't even know.
Oh, I had no clue. I was so
how did you
clueless.
keep on going?
It was, I found outlets like music.
Right.
I'd put those headphones on and, play Eye of the Tiger,
Sure.
from Rocky movies.
Yeah,
and I would observe other people that in and out of the rooms.
Sure.
That transform their lives physically,
Right.
their bodies and stuff.
So you knew you weren't doing it like yourself, and you weren't separating yourself like, oh, well, they can do it, but I can't do it. Like,
no, the words "I can't" are just so self-defeating.
Right.
Those words never come out of my mouth.
Right.
I've had a lot of personal trainers that always say to me, don't say you can't. There's nothing you can't do. Because I would say it. Like, they'd give me these weights and they'd say, do 10 reps. And I'd be like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
They said, until we could see that you physically can't do it, you're already setting yourself up mentally for failure.
Wow. And that could spill over, obviously, in the other areas of your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I try to keep, and believe me, Jared, I fall short.
Oh, come on, of course.
I'm not one to ever say I'm perfect. I'm never one to say that I live, a perfect life or this or that. Like, when I'm in pain, you're going to know I'm in pain.
Right.
When I'm sad, I'm down, I'm hurting, or even when I'm elated and I'm happy and I'm loving life, you're going to know it.
Right.
I'm true transparency to, like, every aspect of that word.
How did you learn how to be like that? Because a lot of times when we come in, we're like that in a very self-defeating way, in the sense of, like, somebody can go up there and tell the worst story about themselves to garner attention, or to, like, in hindsight, that's what you're doing. In the moment, you're just like, I want to fit in. Mm-hmm. So, like, if you're a transvestite, I'm a transsexual. Like,
exactly. But for me, it was never about fitting in.
Right.
It was, so one of the suggestions that was given to me in sobriety was, don't make any major changes in the first year.
Right.
Relationships, don't get into a relationship, don't do this, don't do that. I listened for the first, I took every suggestion, and actually I didn't get into any kind of, like, life-changing relationship for the first 3 years.
Wow.
Because I didn't love myself.
Right.
I'm like, how am I going to give myself to someone physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, like, on every level, if I can't love myself?
Did you know that you didn't love yourself?
Oh, from day one, I didn't love myself.
Right.
when I was out there, clearly did not love
Yeah,
myself.
you weren't behaving that way.
I wasn't behaving that way. I couldn't even look myself in the mirror without being disgusted or giving myself these, you disgusting junkie, you're a slob, you're this, you're that.
I can do that right now, even though we're not that.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
On the wrong day. Like, and like, it's so weird. Like, regular humans, a lot of people, they go through that where they're just like, it's fiction.
It's the disease that talks to me in my head that says that I'm not good enough,
Right.
I'm less than.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be someone that struggles with alcohol or drug addiction.
Right.
I have civilian people in my life that don't drink or do drugs, or they can have one drink and never drink for like months.
Right.
It's out there. It's life. Our brains, not everyone has great self-esteem. And I've learned that throughout this process of my own journey between recovery and getting my body in a healthier shape. And
How long did that take, that process?
it was up and down. It was an up and down battle, but I never gave up.
That's nice.
Never, ever, ever. Like, giving up was not an option
You
for
earned
me.
it. Up and down, that's everything.
It was wild. Like, I went from, I think I lost, I don't know. It took me about two to 3 years. Slow and steady wins the race.
Right.
I didn't go on any fad diet. I didn't starve myself. I didn't drink coffee and smoke cigarettes all day long to lose weight. Like,
Right.
I ate properly. I listened. I listened to the people that were I always had a trainer because I needed accountability.
Sure.
Because left to my own device, I would sit on the couch and watch TV or just go to work, go home, and go to bed because I
Right.
didn't want to do it. But knowing I had an appointment with somebody, that I had to show up, not only for them, but for myself.
Right.
I still have a trainer to this day.
Wow.
And you see what shape I'm in? I
Yeah.
still have a personal trainer because I'm always looking to better myself.
Right.
And again, not for vanity, but for health,
And
for
it's
my
not
health.
it's not a like surrendering to this life that we have where we're with each other, and like sometimes people think that like if I need help, but if I ask for help, that like something's wrong with me and I'm like a loser and all this other bullshit where like, dude, no, like everybody needs help with everything, and it's lonely doing it on your own.
It is. It truly is, because for years prior to coming into recovery, I did everything by myself. I was alone. I isolated. I remember even being a kid, not wanting to do things because I wanted to be alone.
Yeah.
Or not asking for help, let's say, with something as simple as homework.
Right.
The message that needs to get out there to people, and I love that you're doing this podcast for this exact reason. Doesn't matter if you're in AA or if you're just struggling with the feelings of low self-esteem, or, with this COVID's driving everyone crazy.
Oh
You know
my
what I
God,
mean?
yeah.
People are getting depressed. People are feeling less than or feeling like shit.
Or maybe they've been depressed and they've been so busy that they don't even know they're depressed. Until
Exactly. Now they have the time on their hands
Yeah.
to realize, like, holy wow, I'm like not really that good up there.
Right.
Asking for help isn't a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
There's no I in the word we.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I learned that. Sometimes I learn it a little bit the hard way.
Sure.
Because I like challenges and stuff like that. But now it's become second nature.
Right.
I practice these principles in all my affairs. And that's what I was saying earlier. Like, anyone can talk the talk, but if you can't walk the walk outside in the real world,
Yeah.
then you're a fraud to me.
Right.
You're going to judge, you're going to sit in AA, let's say, oh, I don't judge, I don't throw stones, I'm this, I'm that. And then outside you're judging people. And, I understand people fall short.
Sure.
Practice what you preach.
Right. Yeah. Like
Practice what you preach.
Right.
I'm not going to sit here and, like I said earlier too, I'm not going to say I'm perfect, because I'm not. I have a lot of shortcomings. In sobriety, I've battled depression.
Right.
when Hannah passed away, the young girl I was mentoring,
Yeah.
it was literally 2 months and 10 days shy of my 9-year sober anniversary, and I wanted nothing more than to pick up a fucking drink to numb the pain.
How long were you working with her?
From January till she passed. The last day I had spent with her was April 19th, and she passed on April 20th.
Right.
And
What did you learn about yourself, about the situation, just in general? What did you learn?
from her passing, I learned that no matter what, like pain I'm going through or the grieving and the role that I had taken on with her was almost like that of a mother figure.
Right.
Because she could have been my child.
Yeah.
I was 40, she was 20.
Right.
You know, she could have been my kid.
Of course.
The most ironic thing was that when I found out her name, when I was a kid, I always said if I had a little girl, I'd name her Hannah.
No way.
That was my favorite name in the world, spelled exactly with the H at the end.
Wow.
And it broke me, but I was able to rebuild myself.
Right.
And I was able to ask for help.
Yeah. Thank God you had all of these years of like, you know, you come into the rooms, you start to, you know, everybody, you start to get your life together, blah, blah, blah. In a few years, you get in shape, you get the right apartment, you get the right job, you get the right girlfriend or boyfriend or they friend or whatever.
Yeah.
You get the right of what you feel the semblance of a real life is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've seen it happen to everybody, including myself. And then I started to drift away from the program, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I need a meeting all the time. And then, and then, you know, because like all of a sudden my life, I'm too busy for AA, right? And then like I found myself within 6 months of me doing that, drifting away. I was like, you know, I was listening to this podcast the other day, and the guy was saying, he's like, you know, he's like creating and destroying is a slow process. We're either building things up slowly or slowly, gradually breaking them down. And that's what I was doing. And I learned that about myself. Like this life of giving,
Mm-hmm.
of reflection, of self-analysis and owning, you know, stuff that I don't want to own with another person and being accountable, like you said, with the train. It has to be a lifestyle.
Yes.
It's not just like, oh, we're gonna do these steps and we're gonna do this stuff and then we're gonna be okay. Like there's
it's a
no
process.
cure.
There is no cure.
There's no cure.
It's a daily reprieve, a day at a time.
Yeah.
That's what I was taught.
Sure.
But everything in life, in and out of the rooms, all we have is today.
Right.
I find myself, like, I sought out a therapist, like
Right.
for grieving.
Wow.
Because I didn't know,
I didn't even know they had specific ones like that.
So it turns out that he really wasn't a specializing
Right.
in grieving kind of counselor, and that's a whole story in itself. But
You made the effort.
I made the effort.
What'd you get out of it?
What I got out of it was he said something to me that day, because as soon as they heard I had a history with drugs and alcohol, they placed me with a substance abuse counselor.
Oh, God.
When I specifically said I needed someone that specialized in grieving.
Right. Would you like call a place or something?
I reached out to someone in the rooms that I knew was in this field,
Okay.
and they placed me. I got in the system with, I don't remember if it was like Lutheran or, I don't know, one of those
One of those hospitals.
mental
okay.
health places.
Right.
And I did a few sessions, and it seemed as if I was almost counseling myself.
Sometimes that's what it takes.
And I'm
With the other
I'm blessed,
person,
and I'm
yeah.
grateful for that, because what he said to me that completely blew my mind and just pushed me over the edge to say I could do this. He said, well, you know, when you were drinking and drugging, like, enough was enough, right? Like, when is this going to be enough? Like, when is your grieving enough? And I'm like, what?
That's so
I said to, I wanted to be like, fuck you.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
how
yeah.
dare you
How
put
dare
a
you.
time limit on my grieving?
Yeah. I need to lather myself into
Really?
self-pity.
Like, are you really going to say that to
Oh.
me, guys? So I said, you know what? Thank you for your
Go
time.
fuck yourself.
Pretty much. Short of saying that, I
Right.
said, please discharge me.
That was so
I
helpful,
I
right?
no longer need your help because I think I just figured out how to help myself.
Right.
And I went back to the rooms
Right.
because it was COVID.
Right.
Fuck, I hated Zoom.
Yeah.
I hated Zoom. And with her passing, I used every excuse in the book that I was entitled to isolate. I was entitled to not go on a meeting. I was entitled to not all those isms that came,
Yeah.
came back almost 9
They're all
years
destructive.
later.
None of them is
And none
helpful.
of it was helping at
Yeah.
all. And then once this therapist guy,
I can't believe you said that. It's a powerful statement, though, if you really think about it.
yeah.
It's so
But
true.
it could be, you could always say it in life, but not in that, aspect.
Right.
You can't put a time limit on someone's pain
Yeah.
or grieving or sadness or anything like that.
Sure.
He could have said, be patient,
Right.
take it easy, be gentle with yourself.
Right.
It's normal what you're feeling.
Right. Situational.
It's situational, exactly. And come to find out, when I sought out another therapist, he said, you're having situational depression right now.
Yeah.
You have a lot on your plate. You just lost her.
Right.
You're taking care of your family. You're working. You're taking care of yourself. You're grieving. You're in a relationship that, that requires a lot of your time. Like, when are you going to start focusing on you?
Right. When is it going to be enough?
When is it going to be enough? But he said it in a different way.
Why? It's so wild that somebody could just I think I talk about this also with myself. This is part of the things that helps me communicate with other people. It's like that first guy, and this is where I do the same thing that he does. Like, in some sense, maybe he did it on accident. I don't fucking know. I like to think I'm smarter than everybody. But he just went straight through the front door.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And the truth is a lot of times you got to go through the side window.
Yes.
And it's got to be, especially with people like us, because we go right away. How dare you? You know? And, you heard the same message from another person or another experience. It dawned on you in a different language. It's so, and imagine if this guy was just compliant from the beginning, obviously it all happens for a reason.
Yes.
But yeah. And then you start to turn that corner, and then what happens next?
So I started to turn the corner, and
where do you go to learning from okay, this is happening, and now you don't get over everything, but you learn to live with everything.
Exactly.
So how did that happen for you?
So for me, it was very slow. It was a slow process. Having her in my life and seeing what she had overcome and, the battle she went through, and to have a 20-year-old child, in essence, a young adult,
right,
be proud of me for being sober. She would tell me all the time.
Dude, she picked you.
She picked me. That's wild,
crazy.
right?
Yeah.
So I knew that's relapsing. Number one, wasn't going to make it any better.
Oh my God.
Because I was. People can't see me, but I was literally an arm's length away.
Right,
the thoughts were there.
And
the
that
plotting,
all makes it about you. That
all
makes it about
me.
you.
And
yeah.
then I said, wait a minute. I took a step back, and after the front door therapist, the side door guy, I realized that I had to have acceptance.
Right.
That maybe, just maybe, God had a better plan for her.
Yeah.
And maybe the struggles that she was really going through, she didn't deserve it.
Yeah. And the battle's over.
The battle's over. She's at peace. She's finally at peace. And her family still thank me to this day for giving her the happiest months of her life.
Wow.
We
Yeah,
laughed.
because she was
and
creating again, right?
She was creating. We were doing music. She was playing her guitar. She would FaceTime me and be like, how do you think this sounds? And she was drawing again. And we would go out and go shopping. We would go out to eat. And, we were doing a lot of exposure stuff,
Right.
because she had a lot of fear.
Sure.
And I'll never forget, one morning I got a text at 4 in the morning that she was having like really bad nightmares, like of trauma that she had gone through
Right.
as a child. And my immediate thought was, are you okay? Are you going to hurt yourself? And she's like, no, I'm just really scared right now. Can you come here? I got out of bed. I was in North Jersey by 5:15 in the morning.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I went on the couch and I curled up with her and I pet her hair and I said, you're going to be okay. Like, I'm here now. You're safe.
Yeah.
Those words that ultimately
Got
made
you the
her
gig.
feel
Yeah.
comfortable. We became a family. It was no longer a gig. It was no longer a job. It
Right.
was me loving her until she could learn to love herself.
Right.
Unfortunately, God had different plans,
Yeah.
but her family is still in my life. We're still family. We're going to be doing some projects, which is really exciting, to get her music, out there more, her story out there more. The stigma behind mental illness, that people really do struggle in
Yeah, like
quiet.
nobody wants to be like that.
No, we don't choose to be mentally ill. We
Right.
don't choose to be alcoholics and drug addicts.
Yeah.
We don't choose to want to be so debilitated with depression that we can't move out of our beds.
Right.
That's not our, that's not
That
our,
wasn't on our list of
that's
things
not
that
on
I
our,
wanted
that wasn't
to be.
on my to-do list. That wasn't on
Yeah.
my bucket list.
Right. And the thing is that even with everything going good in somebody's life and seemingly everything's okay, when that darkness comes, it fucking comes. And it comes out of nowhere. It's disassociated. When we were talking about situational depression or situational anxiety and these kinds of things, and I talk about this because I have one of my kids went away to Job Corps, and they're upstate, and they're having anxiety and they're having problems adjusting and blah 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 blah, but they're doing great, and they're coming this week for Thanksgiving. I'm very proud of them, even though they hate my fucking guts. But because the thing is that like if you take somebody out of their normal pattern of life, even if it's destructive to some degree, right? And this, my kids, they were hanging out with their girlfriend all the time, smoking weed, chilling, just like basically being a normal 22-year-old person. So they take down, you put them in this structured environment, and they did all of this on their own. They get 98.5% of the credit. The rest goes to their mom. But it would be abnormal if you didn't get anxiety from that fish out of water kind of thing.
100%.
Or depression from that, or just start to panic and say, I need to grab for something to ease this thing, because even though we've been thinking about pulling this Band-Aid off, you rip it off sometimes, or that's what it feels like. And now you have an open wound, and you're like, that's not what clinical depression and anxiety is. And I'm not a doctor, but from what I've seen and observed and respect, is that I can't say regardless, my boy Liam is going to shoot me. Regardless of what's going on, that darkness can come.
It can, and it can go to anybody.
Yeah.
It could be, it doesn't matter if you are living in your dream home with your dream partner.
Sure.
Beautiful.
I saw you have the Kate Spade bag, right?
Yeah, really, but who really cares about
Right,
that?
but that's what I'm saying. That lady, she had it all.
She had it all.
She had it all.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's just so it's so sad, truly, that people can suffer in silence like this.
Right.
But I'm here to say, I'm living proof that asking for help, there's no shame in it.
Right.
It's only gonna better yourself.
Yeah.
It's only gonna help. It's only gonna make you feel not alone.
Right.
Because being alone, for me, being in my head is a very dangerous place to be alone.
Sure. I start to believe that stuff.
I start believing those those things. You're not good enough. You're less than. You're not worthy of. You're not deserving.
Or you're like, listen, I have to protect myself from other people. So I'm not sharing anything with anybody, and I'm going to step over whoever I got to feel that security.
Yeah.
Just
I've had to actually distance myself from people
right
in life
right
that were detrimental to my mental health.
Sure.
And to my spirituality and to my, my comfort zone.
It wasn't a good fit anymore.
Nah, they say people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Right. There's some quote, I don't even know if I'm saying it, whatever it is, but yeah, when you're invading my serenity, right? Because I want to be at peace. Right. I didn't get sober and change my life to live in chaos and sadness and drama.
I could do that to myself.
I could do that to myself. I don't need you coming into my life to do that to me. You know what I mean?
Trust me, I'm a fucking black belt. I can do it.
Yeah. So I literally had to. I could love people from afar today. Right. You don't have to be in my life and know every single move I make. Right. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm left with me. Right. Okay? It doesn't matter if someone's next to me. I could be in a room full of people and still feel alone if it's one of those shitty days.
Right. And that's okay.
And it is okay. Those were my next words. It's okay to feel alone, but we're never truly alone. Right. Sometimes I'm holding my phone in my hand and, when I'm in my head and I feel just not good or whatever, this phone feels like it's about 1,000 pounds. Right. To pick up and say, hey, I'm in pain. Right. Why does it feel heavy? Because I don't want to admit self-defeat. Right. No. Today I learned that it's okay to not be okay sometimes.
And even if you've been practicing this for so long, sometimes those days and those moments still happen where you're just but at least we have, because of the work that we do in the program, and basically the work is what it boils down to. My experience is that the steps allow me to make peace with myself, to be able to try and see the humanity in other people so I don't separate myself so much, and to have awareness that there was a time when the phone was 1,000 pounds, but I didn't even know it weighed 1,000 pounds. But now I'm when I feel that feeling, I have to fucking dial.
I have to.
And
Absolutely.
I have to call on my higher power. I call him Chuck. I call him anything. Call him God, whatever.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah. I say, listen, I know that I have this very familiar feeling, and I know what this is. This is me fucking myself. So I better make this phone call and get in. And even no matter how long I've been in the habit of doing it, many times it's very easy, but because it's just a part of my everyday life. But sometimes it's it's very hard, and it's always over something very stupid. And but I know that behavior for me is bad. I can't, like you said, not everybody has to know my whole life, but I can't be keeping secrets from people who are trying to help me.
Exactly.
That's the worst.
Well,
my God.
You heard it. I've heard it. We're only as sick as our secrets.
Right. Or if everybody put their stuff on the table, everybody would want their own stuff back.
Absolutely. You don't know what, you might think, I've had experiences where I was going through something and I'll make a call to just whoever popped in my head to call. And before I even get into my stuff, I'm like, how are you? Right. To get me out of me. Right. And then it's my friend's grandkid just died at 3 years old, or something that I thought my problem was so catastrophic and so huge. Right. But sometimes I find not only am I calling to ask for help, but that person
needs help.
And then it makes my problem look so insignificant. Right. That it takes me out of me, because now it reroutes my brain and my thinking from being wow, I thought that, chipping my nail was such a catastrophe. Right. Or I thought because I felt like shit today when I woke up and I just didn't want to function. Right. And then in the grand scheme of things, I listen to other people share their stories. Right. I'm wow, maybe it's really not all that bad.
Right. Or even if yours is bad and theirs is bad, nobody's alone.
Nobody's alone.
And
we're always
that's the
in
whole
this
thing.
together. Like
Yeah.
life is about the camaraderie. It's about having people that we always is the key word there.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember when I went into rehab, like I thought rehab was for celebrities. I didn't know I can go to rehab.
Right.
Oh, who fucking knew, you know? And I looked at that shade on the wall that was in my community and it said we. I looked at nothing else but we, and I didn't feel so alone anymore.
Yeah.
Not knowing what the rest of the words were going to be,
Right.
not knowing what the 12 steps were about,
Right.
none of that. I was clueless. But when I saw that word we, I just didn't feel alone anymore. Because my whole life I struggled to try to fit in and feel part of and this and that. And today I can honestly say I'm never alone.
Right.
If I choose to be alone,
Right.
that's my choice.
Right.
But it's for positive stuff. You know, if I want to do something alone, it's going to the gym or whatever it may be, go get a cup of coffee or, you know. But in the grand scheme of problems, in the grand scheme of my sobriety and the program that I'm working and
In your life.
the life that I'm living, everyday regular life, I suit up, I show up, and I know I am never alone. And I'm no longer scared to ask for help.
Yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah.
All right. All right. It was great chatting. Look, we did in almost an hour.
Wow.
Awesome. Listen, we're going to have you on again, you know, with more updates and all this other kind of shit.
Anytime, Jared. Thank you
I
so
love
much
you
for
so
thinking
much.
of me.
Oh
I
my
love
God,
you.
I love you so much. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Peace.